What's going on, y'all? KM Best here. I just got done climbing to Infinite. I came in at rank number 9, and we are going to talk about Blink, which was the card that I tried to build around on my climb to Infinite and in Infinite. Blink is Marvel Snap's newest card. She is a 5/7 that takes your most previously played card before her and swaps into the deck for something bigger. Now, there is a lot of competition at the 5-drop spot for this card, and that is something that comes up a lot when you deck build with her. I personally think that there are 3 rough gradations of how good Blink is going to be, and you can sort of use these as your own heuristic for whether or not you want to pick this card up. Gradation number 1, of course, is this card good with Electro Ramp stuff? And I think undeniably Blink has been good in Electro Ramp. Is it good enough to make Electro Ramp a real deck? I think that's a bit of a different question, because level 2 is Blink making Hela better? And I think the answer to that question is a resounding yes. Blink is absolutely making Hela better, and that makes things a little bit more awkward for anyone who is trying to leverage Electro Ramp, because Hela is perfectly happy to play 1 card a turn and is also going to go a lot taller than you, because you, like an idiot, pay energy for your cards, and they, like a genius, pay no energy for their cards. They just play the card Hela. So that natural born bad matchup is something that is keeping the Electro builds of this card down. And I think it is sort of awkward to have an obvious first slot where you want to play this card, and then it has the second most obvious thing to do just beats it really horribly. And I think that is pretty much what's happening with the relationship between Electro stuff and Hela right now. It's just not really in a good spot for the Electro stuff. We will talk about some Electro decks if you really want to play them, because I like to cover all of my bases. Now, number 3, gradation number 3 is she competitive with the best 5-drops in the game? Do you want to play her in a package with Jubilee, for example, in mid-range decks like Angela Kitty type decks? Do you want to be doing that instead of playing Sentry Annihilus is sort of the main question you're going to want to be asking yourself. And I personally think that the jury is out on that. 2 of the most interesting decks that we're going to talk about today are in that style of deck. Like, they are using this card as a piece of those kind of mid-range decks, and I think that is a good thing for it to do, a good place for it to be, but I'm not convinced that that kind of stuff has legs necessarily. It's just the most interesting spot for it now, because what this card does is genuinely very powerful. Converting a Jubilee into a 5 or a 6 drop like a Vision, a Doom, a Magneto, that's really damn good. And when you build your deck so that most of your Jubilee hits are already good, yeah, you're getting a lot of value out of this card. It is close to comparable to it. However, what you're giving up is you're giving up the ability to play a lot of reactive tech cards. You don't really get to play Shang-Chi, doesn't play very well with this card. You don't really get to play Shadow King. You don't really get to play Quake. You don't really get to play cards where you need to be playing multiple cards on the final turn of the game, because when you build a deck like this, you're very much going, 4, 5, 6. You're not really able to play any of that sort of tech card stuff because you are such a 6-drop heavy deck. With all of that said, I do think this is an exciting and compelling card. I think at the very least, it makes Hela a significant metagame competitor. It is an upgrade in that deck. I think that is undeniable, and we have a long way to go to figure out if it fits in the mid-range core, if it's competitive with Annihilus, but it was fairly profitable for me when I tried it out. Let's start with what we are very sure is a good home for Blink, and that is, of course, Hela. Now, I think that this is the easiest thing for Blink to go into and immediately be good. We all know how I feel about how this deck plays out. We all know how I feel about the mirrors of this deck, but yes, this is an absolute upgrade to Hela in much the same way as old Lockjaw was. This is effectively doing the same thing, but it has a bigger body on it. Now, is it changing any of the fundamental dynamics of the game? Not so much. Some of the underlying stuff that it does is cool. You can win games off of these like small ball, no Hela matchups now. But most of the time, you really are just using it to get your extra shot at getting Hela. You are doing things of that nature, and it typically ends up being pretty profitable for you, because not only is it a like sort of cope limp in backup plan when you aren't drawing Hela, it is also a great way to draw Hela. Now, there are some occasional downsides to blinking into a Hela on 5, like Your things might be Shang-Chiable, your opponent might know where they actually are, a lot of that face up can cost you cube equity, but generally speaking, I think this is a very obvious and complete home for Blink. If you are just looking for a deck to play this card in and you want to play a good deck with it, I think this is the safest and most obvious choice. As far as how you play Hela, you do have to understand what the odds of everything that happens in the game are. And that means, yes, you will make plays where you are 40% to discard your Hela onto Corvus Glaive. That will have to happen. Another thing you're going to want to pay attention to is when you can get rid of death with something that isn't Lady Sif, you often want to not do that. I will find myself, if I have a Blade, a Lady Sif, and I draw a death, I'm not going to try to Blade that. I want to Lady Sif it and then Blade something else, because otherwise I end up rolling the 50-50 on, say, a Hela that I might draw with that Lady Sif. I don't like that. So keep in mind the little ways that you can maximize your odds, and understand that when you play this deck, you are going to the casino. You are playing a deck that has a lot of inherent variance. You can't let that get to you, but what you can do is do your best to control the variance. A lot of this comes out on turn 6. You're going to want to look at situations where your turn 6 play can create multiple wins if you are playing the card Hela. Let's say you only discarded 2 things. You need to do the math and figure out, okay, if this goes here, I win. If this goes here, I win. What are the possible permutations, and where should I play Hela to best influence those permutations? A lot of Hela play is filling up a lane that you don't want stuff to go in to give you a better shot at it going into the lanes that you actually can win the game on. And that kind of stuff does matter. Again, all the little edges matter with a deck like this. Even with Blink in there, maybe even especially with Blink in there, because understanding her math is important too. You have to do a lot of just game theory optimal play with this deck, and sometimes that means you are 60% to win and you are not going to win, and that will happen to you. And with Hela, the numbers are very face up, and that can feel like a very frustrating experience. So I would encourage you to not get frustrated, because this deck really is that good. This is a generic build of the Electro stuff. I have named it Ew because I think it is just unfortunately too poorly positioned against Hela. One of the clear things that happened when Blink came out was all the good players realized, oh, this goes in Hela. And when you're doing stuff like this, you simply cannot compete. Now, if you are not playing against Hela a bunch of the time, this is a much more reasonable deck, unless you're also playing against Loki, in which case they Loki you and then do the thing that you're doing, and you feel really dumb about it. So those are the main matchups that keep Electro in check. Now, I will say, against other stuff, this deck actually did feel pretty strong. Like, if you're playing against a mid-range Angela type thing, you can really get some work in when you play a deck like this. The issue is you run into these issues of the extremes. Hela is an extreme you can't deal with. Phoenix Force, to some extent, is an extreme you can't deal with. And Loki is an extreme you can't deal with, where you are in these situations where Loki, the card, is so good against you, especially with a Quinjet, or the card Hela just kind of single-handedly does more points than your entire deck. And those issues are profound. It is not a good place to start in this metagame when you do not have a good plan into either Hela or Loki. Just not a good thing to be doing. Now, against other decks, I really do want to emphasize this. You can beat them, right? Like, against sort of fair, dirtily mid-range decks, you can do really cool stuff with Electro. Playing Electro into Blink is actually as dumb as you think it is. It's just, Hela has Corvus into Blink, and that's just as dumb, and you get to, be better than this deck at doing the thing that it does. And so you end up in a situation where this deck has very few competitive advantages. There are a few reasons to play this deck instead of another deck because of its metagame positioning. This is not a deck that is just absolutely unplayable on its own merits. This is just a deck that has some bad matchups, and those matchups happen to be very common. It's something to keep an eye on in the future, but I think the issue is, as long as Blink is good, and she seems pretty good right now, people are going to be playing Hela, which is a problem for you. This list was cooked up by Yo Woody, and while I did not have a great time playing it, I ended up feeling like I was just a little too small. There were too many people playing Hela, and I was just sitting there like, oh, well, I'm not really good into that. And the upside of it was not overly compelling either. It was there was cool stuff, but it didn't seem to come together. What it did do was highlight an interaction that I think is something that absolutely needs to be explored with Blink, and that is Blink's effect when it comes to cards that discount themselves. Miles Morales and Stature are the ones that this deck uses, converting Miles into 5+, converting Stature into a 6-drop, knowing what that's going to be because you built the deck. That is a strong play. It might not be the best positioned right now, but this is something to keep an eye on. Another card that I wanted to keep an eye on in this context is Mockingbird. Now, it's possible that it just ends up being that like Blink Jubilee is just a little bit better, and that ends up being a better thing to build around when you're doing this stuff. Maybe that's true. That said, I am excited to see work in the space with Stature, with Miles, to try to get something really stupid happening. One of the things I did notice while I was doing this, though, is that like the difference between like a Stature and a 6-drop is honestly not enormous. Like you turn it into a Red Hulk, they don't pass any energy, and suddenly it's just 2 power that you got. And so you're not feeling it as much as you would want to be feeling it, but it is definitely something that I think is an interesting thing to do. Miles Morales especially felt compelling to me, and I think that that is a card people should be looking closer at with Stature stuff, or with Blink stuff, I should say. One thing I kept running into was feeling like I didn't have a plan against Hela, so I tried out a Annihilus package type thing. It didn't come together as well as I would have wanted. It was rare for me to actually like get the Annihilus off of the Blink. It just wasn't really a thing that was panning out for me. I think there's probably something here. I just don't necessarily think this is what ends up being a Blink deck. I think this is something where I took a deck that had already existed, I put in Blink and I tried it and it was fine, but I don't think this ends up being a deck that people really build around Blink. It's just like showing, hey, sometimes she's pretty cool if you're digging for like that specific Annihilus thing. That was sort of the thought process here, was what if we had a card that was just like Annihilus 2? It was your second Annihilus. You could always make sure you got him. The issue I ran into is, of course, you end up flushing away your Sentry, which is not very good. And so you end up in a much more awkward situation than you otherwise would be. We weren't able to get a Jubilee in here, and I kind of think if we're not Jubileeing, we don't really need to run her in the first place. So this is just a little bit of an experiment that you can look at and see, can I take anything from this? And it is entirely possible there might not be anything you could take from this, but I hope that there is. Finally, this is the last one that we arrived at, and I think this was the one that I had the most fun with, that I felt like was the most strong. And what it is basically is using the Jubilee and Blink package in a typical Angela mid-range list. This is a deck that is looking to leverage the fact that you play a lot of cards that move. It is looking to leverage surprise power on the final turn of the game, and it is fundamentally playing a little bit of a fair game. However, you do have a decent amount of unfairness when you hit good Blink rolls, you hit good Jubilee rolls. You could really do stuff that is well above the curve. And I think that is compelling to me, because the major question I had when I was playing something like this was, how do I convince myself it's better than Prophex Cannonball? How do I convince myself it's better than Sentry Annihilus? And I think, maybe it's not. But it was damn close, and I was surprised by that. I was surprised by how close this actually felt. And I think that is probably where her future lies, if I had to guess, right? That is, whether it works in here is whether she's going to be a slam dunk or a layup, right? I think this card already ends up being a great Hela card. We've established that, for sure. But whether it ends up being a good mid-range card is going to determine whether it's like a 5 out of 5 or like a 3 out of 5. And if this kind of stuff ends up legitimately good and legitimately powerful and competitive with Prophex Cannonball and Annihilus Sentry and the other famously strong packages that this game has at the 5-cost slot, we're talking about a really good card. I think the jury is still out on that, but a lot of the gameplay you're going to have on the back end of this video is going to be of me playing this list, so I do hope you enjoy that. You can see how she ends up going on her own in Infinite, actually, because we started playing after we just kept playing after we hit Infinite. I'm a little bit unlike normal, but I'm happy to do it. So, how good is Blink actually? I think she's somewhere between a 3-star card and a 4.5-star card, depending on how her mid-range stuff works out. My base instinct is I don't think the mid-range stuff is going to outcompete Sentry Annihilus just yet. I think maybe in some other world where those cards aren't as strong, I think maybe that's possible. I think also maybe in another world where Cannonball Prophex isn't as strong because she doesn't play very well with those either. but I'm glad she exists. If I had to pick a card she reminds me of, she's a little bit like Jane Foster, where it feels like I'm getting like really close to one of the most powerful things in this game to do, like all these powerful 5-drops. She feels very close to them, but I don't think she's there just yet. But there is potentially still some untapped potential, don't know why I said that twice, to be found with this card. Let me know what you think about Blink in the comments, of course, and as always, I've been KM Best. Thank you so much for making it this far in the video. I will be putting some gameplay on just after this so you can see how Blink did for me, and I will see you in the next one. Person already, they were playing something. I do not know what it is they were playing. What was it they were doing? Loki? That would make sense. The Blade Yellow Jacket? Oh yeah, that was weird. What are they? Good God. Okay. All right. I mean, they seem to be snapping on a kiln. I'll play. Oh, they were Mr. Negative. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good. They're negative. I learned that there. Yeah. Ooh, I learned that. Can I beat that? Maybe. I'm fairly tempted to try. Am I a Vision gamer? Or am I a Blink that Jubilee into Magneto or Red Hulk gamer? I think I'm a Blink gamer here. I think we are blinking. And we'll figure out what the rest of what is. Alright. They only drew one card off that. They drew exactly one card off. Do we think they have a Shang-Chi in their deck? No clue. That's the thing I also have. I feel like I'm gonna win this game. Let's do it, baby. I have two plays. One is slam Magneto left. The other is middle. Get rid of it with Nocturne and Magneto to middle. I'm doing this one. Go fuck. Oh my god. We needed that. Alright, Brodozer. I need 8 cubes out of this. I gotta get it. I gotta get it. Because we have Hope Jubilee Blink. That feels strong. Now, I do want a 2-drop here so that I can stop making that thing bigger. I am happy to see that 2-drop here so I can stop making that thing bigger. Perfect. So if I play this Jhin, I have too much energy next turn. I'm gonna hold the Jhin. Wait. Yeah. Yep. Gonna try something. Wait. The fuck we are. Ooh. Almost ordered that entirely incorrectly. There's a Red Hulk. Solid. Love it. Big fan. Nocturne, solid. Jhin, reasonable. Playable card. 8. Alright, how do we get to 8 without pumping the rep? Very easily. That's a Doom that it pulls every single time? Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Alright, I'm sufficiently horrified, yeah. What the fuck is going on? Spyro with the raid. Thank you, dude. Thank you, Spyro. Holy shit. What are we gonna do about this situation, though? They're sitting on 9 energy. I don't know how I feel about this game. Where are they putting their Red Hulk? Also, how big is their Red Hulk? It's actually just a Red Hulk guessing game. isn't it? It's actually just a red hole guessing game. That's the only thing that's happening here. The red hole guessing game. Okay. Jesus Christ. Spyro, you did it. Spyro, you did it. Thank you. This was all for you, Spyro. Look, it's a Hela. That's awesome. I can't wait to play against Hela. Oh, wait. We were going to try the Pixie thing. Shit. Okay. Calling Wing the Infinite. Jesus Christ. That's a play. Oh, hello. There are hits here. Hello. That's horrifying. God, imagine if that had targets. Fuck me, right? Baby. Baby. Makes sense without an Annihilus. And that is super possible, right? It's super possible that Pixie just is not a thing that makes sense without an Annihilus, and that's just the world we have to live in. Super, super plausible outcome. Oi. Oh. Well, you know. Maybe winnable. Could be vision, right? Ooh, vision, 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 vision. Doom. Okay. Okay. That's not ideal, I think. I think that's not ideal. Still, I do have, like, a pretty reasonable win condition here of Nico Minoru, Cannonball, move the Nocturne here. Rolk right and Nocturne mid. What? What do you mean, Rolk right and Nocturne mid? Huh? Rolk left and Nocturne mid. It turns off the location that can kill their stuff. The real question is, are they just going to play something big on the left? I feel like if I were them, I would play something big on the left. Well, let's play our game. We won it. We did it. Oh my god, could you imagine? If she actually did that in such a way that Magneto got the buff there? Holy fuck. Good in, like, Sandman stuff. This is the first time I've played a Blink deck where I'm like, I don't hate everything it's doing. So we got that going for us. We are playing a deck where I no longer hate every single thing. Holy shit. I mean, we have to, right? Do we clone it? Oh, now we don't. They're a Loki deck or some shit. We never morph. We never morph. Fuck. I mean, we'll still play him, but like... Who am I kidding? Who am I kidding, baby? What the fuck do you think this is, dog? Oh, yeah! Oh, yes. No target. They got my Doom. They acquired my Doc Doom. No target. No target. Oi. Oi. Elsa, no. I think we still win, though. I think we still win, though, off some clever manipulation of space. So far, this is by far the most compelling thing I've played with either of them. We finally found a not Hela deck. Making me feel all tingly inside. I'll get some free GIFs. Nocturne bar missed opportunity. No, it's the other way. We're using Nocturne to make bar all us. Nocturne is bar Sinister is now a location that only benefits us. What the fuck? I forgot that was what happened in this game. Cool. Wow. So this is a situation. This is a situation. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. Magneto my ass.